Hey everybody, Brett Tadlock here, TN Artist. So, gonna work on a beach scene that originally was going to be the paint along for patrons, but wasn't able to do that, so still want to get the painting out so that way people can try their hand at it. Alright, so I've kind of got an idea. Let me just kind of draw this out here of what I'm kind of thinking. So, I'm thinking we'll have maybe horizon line somewhere around right about here, and we're going to probably have maybe a big wave up front kind of coming down and kind of crashing in through here, so just kind of coming up and across like that. We're going to have it really curving over and maybe coming down through here and kind of crashing across. I want this to be kind of dynamic looking, so I'm going to kind of over exaggerate stuff. Maybe coming up and then coming around. I don't think we'll see through the eye, so that'll just kind of fade into there. And then, like I said, maybe some surf starting to crash down, and maybe some rest of the waves here kind of deal. Maybe we'll bring that horizon line up a little bit. Maybe right about there. Yeah, that'll give us some depth. And then we'll just have this kind of fade back to other stuff. Maybe the sun right about here. So that way it's kind of shining the light through and across. That'll be kind of dynamic. Maybe some clouds coming across like so. And coming across like so. Maybe some wispy ones up through here. And coming across like so. So again, our main thing here is going to be the beach scene. And just kind of coming across, and we'll have maybe a little bit of water coming through there, and then this will all be foam. Okay. All right. I think that gives us a good roadmap to kind of have an idea of where everything is likely to be. So that'll work. Just kind of tighten that up a little bit. There we go. Okay, so I think that's going to give us a good idea of, like I said, a good roadmap for where stuff is. I honestly don't know why I'm sitting here messing with the cleaning up the picture. Anyway, let's turn on pigment. Change this to line art. And let's go ahead and lock that layer and make a layer above it. We can move this up. And we'll bring the opacity down, something like that, and we'll go ahead and hide it. Alright, so on this layer, we're going to start with a fill bucket, and we're going to go to gradation. Looking at the ones we have in here, I have a couple of them. Actually, I repeated that one for some reason. Thinking I want to do maybe, I think we'll go with this. Go ahead and go with this one. Let's bring that up. There we go. If you push shift, that'll kind of lock it into the vertical. Alright. So we're going to bring that up just a little bit. Maybe something like that. Enter. Alright, now I want to add a little bit of a pinkish hue and a little bit more yellow, so I'm going to come over here, grab a real light, that may be too light. Let's desaturate it. Opacity is down, go ahead and drop it down to 20%. And just drag that across so we can get kind of that pinkish kind of color. Come back over here to yellow. And like I said, our sun is going to be somewhere in here, so let's just kind of yellow that up a little bit. Like that. A little bit of that in there. Come back over and add just a touch of pink in there again. There we go. Alright, so let's filter. I'm going to Gaussian blur it. Something along that line, so maybe 15. And I'm going to eventually think I'm going to hue saturation on this. I'm going to grab that. I'm going to come down here. Well, actually, I can just do it from here. I want to throw some of this in here. I want to get a little bit more of this gold, yellow ochre in there, and then I want to come down here, maybe some of this brown. And just kind of bring that around. That's going to vignette a little bit. And let's go with this yellow again, just a little bit more. Kind of like that. Just a little bit more of this pinkish color kind of coming up into the sky. Ever so soft. And now let's maybe go back down here to this blue. And just around, kind of coming up through. See how that's kind of giving that feeling. Alright, let's filter Gaussian blur. Apply. Filter. Hue saturation. I want to desaturate it just a little. Very subtle. Alright, so I think that is going to give us the beginnings of our sky. Trying to see if I kind of like this a little better. Yeah, alright, apply. Alright, so now I can build off of that. So looking at our horizon line and everything else, our main thing is going to be the wave here. So let's go ahead and get that laid in. Okay. And try to think how I want to. I guess we'll go with the acrylics. Alright, I'm going to come down. Let's try with our palette knife first. And I want kind of a dark turquoise kind of in here. A little bit darker. Yeah. I'm going to add just a touch of actual more blue to it. Press 4 and just kind of go back and forth on that. I think that's the color I'm looking for, right about there. Alright, so just want to kind of circle this in here and start laying the groundwork for where this is going to be. Kind of coming around, and I'm just going to get darker as I come in through here. And I want these kind of breaking up of color here. I may go a little bit darker, a little bit purplish. And then 4, I'm going to bring the opacity down so I can blend this a little softer. So again, this is just the underpainting. Always got to start with the underpainting, building up some colors and textures that'll go under everything else. Like so. I think I'll grab a little bit of maybe this purplish color go in here. I'm going to go a little bit more purple over through here. And then jump back to a little bit of this orange to kind of dull that purple down. Press 4 and just kind of lightly go back and forth over these. Don't want to completely blend it out. I'm wanting some of this to shine through, so that's why I'm trying to give the indication of where the foam might be. We'll come back and play with that in a second. And I'll grab a little bit of this blue, and I'm going to have some waves down here. So I want that to kind of fade off, but I also want to kind of set the stage for it to look like it's still turning. Very softly using the pin pressure to kind of let that blend softly. This palette knife smooth, this comes with Rebelle, and it's a really good blending brush. It works really well for stuff. Coming back in with this a little bit smaller, same brush, but a little bit smaller, just to kind of get some of these shapes in here. I want this color in here more. bit more darkness to that. So I bet you never thought there was browns in water, huh? Darken this in here because I want this to really... So what I like about doing it this way and building it up in these layers like this is that when I paint underneath here, because I'm about to jump back and start working on the sky, it's going to shine through here. So it's really laying the foundation for starting to get our colors to all go together. All right. So now here I want to do a little bit of work on this. So I'm going to grab this blue color and keeping my brush fairly horizontal. I'm trying to be careful not to let my stylus twist too much. All right. See how the cursor is horizontal? That's what I'm trying to keep. All right, I'm going to come back to that again, just laying some groundwork. And I'm smudging it with these little banana strokes. So it's this kind of a stroke. I just call it a banana stroke, a stretched comma, whatever you want to call it. I do have a sea ocean stencil that you can use for this exact same thing. Okay. All right. So I think that's a good start on that. Okay. All right. We're going to come back and play with this stuff in through here, so no worries. Let's jump back down and work on the sky. So I'm going to go back down to the color. I'm going to make a new layer between these two. And I'm going to grab with my selection tool down to our horizon. And hit enter. I pulled that back, but now I really want to kind of change my mind. I want to bring up the saturation. And I'm going to actually come down to the layer that I meant to be doing that on, because I was like, why is this not changing? Let me do that again. Hue saturation, that's going to bring it up. Really kind of punch that out. Apply, filter, Gaussian blur. There we go. Alright, and I'm going to make a layer on top of this, and I'm going to change it to overlay. And we'll bring it down to about halfway in opacity. And let's go to overlay. And this yellowish color, go a little bit more golden. Also got that over here, like this chromium yellow, or the cadmium yellow, big deep. So I'm going to keep that, trying to go straight across over to here, and just get a little bit lighter color. Come back to my airbrush. just kind of build that out a little bit. Go a little bit over, so we get a little bit more orangish kind of color to it. A little bit more. Okay. Go back down to this one. Just kind of slowly building that up. Something like that. Alright, so let's come back up to our, get one of our cloud brushes. Start with the cloud brush just to lay in some of this, and I'm going to go with kind of this color, and I can do Control D and get rid of my selection. Alright, so that purplish color, but I want to come a little bit more towards this side of it, maybe even a little bit more towards this. And we're going to drop it down, and we want this kind of dark kind of color here. Go down a little bit lower. And I'm just going to quickly go in kind of where my drawing is. Grab my other cloud brush. You can use any of them. This is just laying in the foundation of it. Just a little bit of that there, and I'm going to come over here, get a little bit of orange. A little bit of yellow. Alright, I'm going to press 4. And I'm just going to real kind of blend some of these together. Remember, as you're doing this, make sure to pick up your stylus so that it doesn't blend all of one color into it. Kind of want some of that pink in there. So I'm just trying to throw different colors in here that'll kind of go with the sunrise, sunset, whichever one it is. They're basically the same when it comes to painting. So I just want to throw some of those in. There we go, throw in a little bit of that. Something along those lines. There we go. Alright, let's get rid of the line art. I'm going to take my cloud foam brush. I'm going to hit 4. Now I'm going to just kind of blend all this. And again, right now I'm just trying to get some color moved around. And I'll come back in and actually start shaping the clouds more. But I just want these variations of colors to kind of get played out. Okay. Grab the actual blending brush. Just kind of come in and swirl it around and soften some of those. Just like so. Don't want to soften everything. But I do want some of these transitions to be a little more gentle. But again, underpainting still, so don't, you got to remember that every painting is going to look ugly before it looks good. So right now, this is kind of ugly, which is fine. So just keep working on it. Alright, so I'm kind of going in on this overlay layer, and I'm going to do the same thing on the actual sky layer in a second. But this is just, it helps to add a little more dimension. And I'm going to come down here to the sky layer. And do similar. It just helps build a little more extra dimension, basically. Maybe there's some clouds right there running in front of the sun. Because we can do another layer of the sun over top. Alright. So we've got that there. Alright. So that's in there now. And we can start building up those clouds here in just a second. Alright, so let me come back here where that is. I'm going to over here, and I'm going to streak this to follow my waves. So that way it kind of blends into it, and you don't have that straight line there. All right, there we go. All right, I'm gonna grab this. I'm gonna come down here, go up to the airbrush, come back down to this one. That sky is just a little too blue. Just want to kind of push it back a little bit. There we go. All right, so we've got that there. And let's go in and add some of the foam. So let's come back up to our waves. You can see some of that, see how that looks right there? That almost makes it look like water, like it is. But all that's going to go together. So we've got kind of our foam coming through. So for the foam, let's go with kind of a purplish color. Desaturate it. Kind of light. Maybe a little closer to bluish purple. Something like that. We can grab any of these rougher brushes. So even this rough dry brush. And just kind of throw in where we're going to have. Let me bring back my line art a little bit. Something along the lines of coming down through here. Kind of coming back around. And then just kind of painting it a little bit over through here. Just kind of blend that around a little bit. I'm going to grab that color. So I know our foam is going to be all through here. Kind of coming down and around. And we're going to really kind of churn this up and around. The cloud foam works really good for ocean spray. So we'll just kind of let this kind of pop down through here. And just kind of come around. Keeping some of this very broken up. Kind of feel. And then that'll come down through here as well. There we go. See how we're starting to get our roadmap even more from the underpainting. We can really start to see how this is going to pull together and get an idea for it. Still got a long way to go, but this is going to give us a really good start for everything. Okay. And then we'll have a little bit of kind of foam through here as well. Kind of that, you know, where the water comes in. Like that. Okay. Soften that back. And when it comes to foam, you just want to kind of keep working it back and forth. And you'll find that wonderful medium where it just kind of all works. This is one of those things you just got to keep trusting the process for it to work. Okay. I'm just kind of coming in and pulling this together just a little bit more. And again, laying some of that foundation for where the rest of the painting is going to go. And by smudging this around and pushing it and pulling it, we're going to get some really cool colors that we can start working with to pull from down here. So just kind of keep bringing it around. And see, I'm just kind of blending it into the other stuff that's around here, because that's going to give us what we need for the colors. Now let's bring some of that down and around. You know, I'm using a cloud brush. You can use any of these brushes. I'm actually going to switch brushes here in just a second. The main reason I'm using this one is that it does a good job for kind of fading this around for where we might have our foam coming in. Okay. Let me grab, let's try the impasto brush. Kind of push that around a little bit. And whereas you want to follow the direction of the wave that you've set up with the foam, you want to make sure and leave gaps. So you notice, and that's where like one of these smudge brushes and stuff can come in to play. But notice how I'm leaving pockets where there's no foam. So that's going to give you that, because foam breaks and pulls itself around, and that's what we want. Okay. So let me grab this rice brush. And I want to kind of play around with pushing some of this around. Kind of following it down. And around. So these lines are what's going to look like water creeping up and around. To give you that feeling of reflection and refraction and movement. Just like so. Let's just kind of pull that around a little bit. But again, waves are very much, dynamic waves are very much built up in constant layers and tweaking of the water and the shadow and the highlights. So just kind of pulling that around so that some of this background shows through a little more. That gives us that natural transparency of the water. Kind of like that. And we're going to pull more highlights into this. As we do build up this eye. Let's see how that starts to give us that natural flow. Flow of the, I hit my undo button by mistake on my pen. Yeah, I think that is getting there. Okay, so let's come back down here on this layer, and let's go over to a bit more of a brownish color. Something like that. think I'll grab my airbrush again, but I'm going to go with kind of a spray. Because this over here is going to be in shadow a lot more. So see how this gives us that speckle? That's what I want. Some of that speckle. And we'll come back and, you know, change it around some, but this is just kind of still laying some of the groundwork. Okay. Alright, so I think for part one, this is a good place to kind of stop. So get yours to this, and then join me on the live paint along next week, and we'll work on starting to pull this together more. But this will give you a good place to start. And some of the things we'll start to work on, and leave yours messy. Leave it, and this is very, very messy, and that's fine. But some of the things we'll start to work on is refining some of these so they don't look like so much like blobs, but they start looking a little more like clouds. And the way we're going to do some of that, if you kind of want to think about it on your own a little bit. So the way we're going to do that with this is we'll come in with one of our brushes. Yeah, we could stick with the rice pen, I guess. And we'll probably switch it over to the eraser. And then just start defining some of these bottoms a little more, so that it kind of cuts into it, and we're kind of reverse negative painting. And we're just going to start tightening up some of these. Just by flattening out some of the bottom and lightly erasing some of it around, like so. And that'll crisp up some of these edges for us to have. And then from there we'll come in and start, you know, refining it a little more. And give it a little bit of silver lining. But just by doing this, so you can give a really nice glow, and all you're doing is just erasing it. Then you can come back and push 4 and lightly blend it. And see how that naturally goes together now. So that's some of the stuff we'll work on for the next one together, and we'll do that on Thursday and kind of go from there. So get to this point. If you have questions about it, come to the thing Thursday to ask them. If you can't make it Thursday, then just drop a comment in with where this is going to be on Patreon, and we'll go. You know, I'll do my best to try and answer it there as well. Okay. So, but I think this is going to be a lot of fun getting this one fleshed out. We may or may not get it finished on Thursday, but I want to take my time and really kind of go over what we're doing and how we're doing it and why and so forth. Okay. But anyway, I hope you can start seeing how we'll play around with this and really start pulling it together. Okay. So get to this point, part 1, underpainting, laid out, composition. I'll give you guys this line art as well, so that way you have that if you need it. If you're not the best at drawing, but you want to have kind of a general composition to go with, but then just follow along and do all of this. Okay, so thanks so much for joining me on this one, and then I will see you Thursday at 7 Eastern and on Zoom, and we'll go over it. So thanks so much, and I'll see you soon.